Let me thank General President Rick Maiden for that very kind and generous introduction. He made me sound so important, I can hardly wait to hear what I got to say. Thank you, Ken, so much for your friendship, for your support, and for the invitation just to come and be with the IUPAT family. Gives me an opportunity to say hello to some old and dear friends. George and I have worked together for any number of years. Others here, where's President Williams?
He's around here somewhere.
He's in the green room, I see.
Yeah, okay.
Jimmy and I worked together about 15 years, and I had brought to this convention a special invitation to him to join the geriatric caucus of the retired members of the afl-cio Executive Council. So if he's not here, some of y'all see him, tell him he's got a standing invitation to join with the rest of us old-timers and just try and continue to do the work of the American labor movement. I had the, as I said, the honor of serving with Jim for about 15 years as a member of the council, and I certainly valued our friendship, our relationship, and certainly the commitment of the IUPAT to so many of the issues important to working people and working families. To the IUPAT, I bring you words of solidarity from the leadership and the membership of the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists. Now, you had some of them walking me up here to the front, and one of the brothers said, "What's the matter with your leg?" I said, "Well, it's an old leg." And it don't cotton to doing things too fast. I used to play football, and I was going down and out, and another cat was coming up and in, and we met. He is a lot better off than I am, but I wouldn't miss being here for the world just to be with the IUPAT family as we look at the work of the American labor movement and the Canadian labor movement and this work on behalf of working people. I don't know where, could some of the CBTU participants just stand up? I just want to see where everybody's at out there. And I want to, there you go, there you go. Now, where's Jack sitting? Where's Jack? Okay, stand up, Jack. Now, Jack does all the work that Ken gets all the credit for. And of course, that's the way it is. But Jack has been so helpful in working with us, in trying to engage us with the IUPAT wherever he can, and we appreciate so much the help you get. Yeah. Now, I also have to say that Jack is sort of walking and living proof of a fact. While we have the name the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists, we do not eat people, we do not, especially white people. And Jack has worked with us for so long that I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to him before this audience of his brothers and sisters. When I received a call from General President Rick Maiden inviting me to join you in your 31st General Convention, I jumped at the chance. Not only was it a chance to say hello to some old friends, but a chance to say thank you to one of the great unions of the afl-cio. Now, we know you're not one of the biggest, but like the brother said in the video this morning, you fight above your weight class. And there has never been a struggle where you were called upon that you did not show up ready to do what needed to be done. And I applaud you for that. And the rest of organized labor owes you a debt of gratitude for your commitment to the work of labor. So give yourselves a hand. And I also want to thank you for your support over the years. We in the Coalition of Black Trade Unions have tried to build labor support within our community. because our community and our needs as trade unionists are identical. And you have been there every opportunity where we've called, and I think on behalf of my president, Terry Melvin, I want to say thank you to the leadership and the membership of the IUPAT for that support over time. I want to take this moment to compliment this union on your vision and your commitment to rebuild, and I say rebuild the labor movement, community by community, and empower labor and our communities to fight back against the issues that impact both of us. We who come from a community base, we are subject to the same problems as labor at the highest level, and if we're going to survive, we're going to survive together. Your commitment to your bold program of community organized for real economics is a model for the rest of labor to embrace. You've made a decision that your current members and your future members and the communities from which they come should enjoy the full fruits of their labor. Brothers and sisters, this is the struggle for our generation. There's no more important issue confronting this nation or Canada or any nation for that matter than for workers to be able to enjoy the fruits of their labor. And I don't have to serve notice on you, but you can see it every day. We're falling behind in that struggle. It is a struggle that we have to wage. We have fought many battles together. We've won some and we've lost some. But in none of those have the black and gold been absent. You have showed up in every battle, and even though we may not have won, they knew you were there. Wherever the question of workers' rights, respect for workers and their families were there, your staff, your rank and filers, and your leadership have been there to give an indication of your presence to those who were in difficulties. You recognized some time back that the rich and powerful had made a conscious decision to launch a full-scale attack and assault on organized labor and its members. With their political power, they have desired to weaken organized labor, desire to divide labor against itself, reduce our power, stifle our growth, and kill labor's voice on behalf of workers across the globe. They have set out with a vengeance to accomplish that goal. North, south, east, or west, their efforts to roll back the hard-won gains of workers can be seen. They want to make it more difficult to organize, impossible to bargain effectively, and to chip away at the key provisions of contracts that we've negotiated in the past. And as they have said, they are committed to seeking a union-free workplace, a workplace where workers have no voice and the employers needs no conscience. They would take us back to the good old days of some 80 years ago. Brothers and sisters, in this convention, I think there's a resolve that we're not going back 80 years. Now, if I'm the only one who think that, I watched your video this morning, and the ideas and concepts that you've put in place are bound to set IUPAT in good stead. We have in this convention, brothers and sisters, men and women who have served their nation with distinction and with honor. They have they have worn the uniform in good times and bad times. We've gone wherever we have been asked to go to preserve the freedoms that we all cherish. They have been to places where time, for some of us, have made their names harder to remember. We ask nothing special from our country, just a level playing field and an opportunity to earn a decent living for ourselves and our families. In this convention, there are grandparents and parents, sons and daughters, uncles, aunties, and cousins of young men and women now struggling across the sand and the foxholes of Iraq and Afghanistan. And the ones responsible for them being there never spent a night outside the comfort of their Park Avenue suites. We need to figure out how to get those who make the decisions about our children and ourselves, put a uniform on them, drag them to the front lines, and let them experience what our people experience on a daily basis. For the rich and the wealthy, for the Cook brothers and their allies, for the beneficiaries of Citizens United, they see this come in November as the final step in their 80-year effort to end labor's role in giving a voice to workers and working families. They want to finally put an end to the Roosevelt New Deal. That is the game plan between now and November. And this is not a new game. We've seen it before. We saw it at the turn of the century when business and government worked almost exclusively for the benefit of the rich and wealthy. We saw the laws written and the playing field tilted so every aspect of our lives were controlled and influenced by those who own the wealth. Our history books are crammed full of stories of business and government, their contribution to the building of this society. And yet they appear to be in the fourth stages of Alzheimer's when it comes to the contribution of everyday workers and everyday people. Our books remind us of the achievements of Leland Stanford and John D. Rockefeller, Cornelius Vanderbilt and Andrew Carnegie, crooks in their own right, J.P. Morgan and E.I. DuPont and Andrew Mellon. Our books remind us of everything except how they made their fortunes off the backs of working people, and how the politicians made it possible and the government made it work. If they could do that for Stanford and his railroad, if they could do it for Rockefeller and his oil company, if they could do it for Carnegie and his steel mill, if they could do it for DuPont and his chemical company, if they could do it for Morgan and Mellon and Vanderbilt, why can't the politicians do some simple things from ordinary people? Why can't they raise the minimum wage? For ordinary people who don't have the benefit and the power of the IUPAT, why can't they create a living wage so that people could live with some degree of decency and dignity? That's what politicians could do. Someone some time back asked Samuel Gompers, and perhaps all of you have heard this, what does labor want? Which is a strange question. I mean, we want nothing more than anyone else wants. And as Gompers explained, he said, we want more schoolhouses and less jails, more books and less arsenals, more learning and less vice, more leisure and less greed, more justice and less revenge. In fact, he said, more of the opportunities to cultivate our better natures, to make manhood more noble, womanhood more beautiful, and childhood more happy and bright. That don't seem like outrageous requests to me. I don't know about you, but it seems like what everybody ought to want from a lifetime of work. Franklin Delano Roosevelt put those simple ideas into policies and programs with the New Deal. Out of those policies and programs came a measure of fairness for American workers and a measure of fairness for many communities across this nation. Franklin Roosevelt raised a fundamental question when he witnessed the unchecked power of wealth. He asked the question about how do you judge the greatness of a nation? And he said, how do you judge it? Do you judge it by what it does for the least of these? Or do you judge it by what it gives to those who already have too much? And that question is just as relevant now as it was when he raised it. If you watch our politics, and I'm not an expert on Canada, but I am an absolute expert on here, folks are much more committed to giving those who are already rich more and giving those who need more less. It seems to me there's something wrong with that picture. And I would argue that we've got to fight like all get out to protect whatever is left of the New Deal. I believe it was from those concerns that Roosevelt expressed that the critical elements of the New Deal was formed. The right to form our unions, the right to organize, the right to bargain collectively, better wages, better benefits, a better quality of life, better education, a measure of retirement security, overtime pay, health and safety. There's nothing outrageous about any of those things. We'd like to have a paid vacation every now and then. The president is up at Martha's Vineyard. Hooray for him. But I mean, I got things from folks out here would like to take a day or so off and go up to Martha's Vineyard, huh? Is it outrageous? Is it outrageous to want unemployment insurance if you're out of work in a bad way? We heard Congress say that if you give people who've been out of work for 26 weeks money, it will make them lazy. Now, that has a familiar ring to it, I want you to know. But how do you take away the opportunities for folks to earn a decent living, and then when they run out of unemployment insurance, you refuse to give them more because you say that will stop them from looking? There's something ass backwards about that logic. And it seems to me that we ought to be yelling and screaming and kicking on the door to make sure that those people who stand in need of just basic assistance get it from the federal government or wherever they can get it from, because they have worked to earn it and they're entitled to live out their lives with some degree of decency and dignity. Now, the tough part of this, brothers and sisters, is there are some folks who want us to think that we as workers and as organized labor is experiencing a new battle, a new fight. Nothing is further from the truth. What we are experiencing right now is the same old battle with the same old enemy. Make no mistake about it, those who fought against Roosevelt are fighting against us, and they will not quit until we either drive them back or become powerful enough to make our power felt in the halls of Congress. While there are some who would be with us in the, I used to have a girlfriend that I would tell her, I'll meet you in the picture show. And she would say, what do you mean? I would say, well, if you don't want to be seen going in, you meet her in the show. Well, we got some jack-leg Democrats who don't want to be with us in the daytime, but want us to meet them in the show. Well, no, you got with us these days, it ought to be up front, be with us when we need to be with us, not tell us how much you love us, and then give us nothing in return. If they get a nickel from our money, they ought to give us a nickel's worth of return in their support for the policies that we need. This is the same enemy who fought against you and your union 127 years ago when you thought about organizing. It's the same enemy who, out of greed and corruption, destroyed the economy and the lives of millions of families with the Great Depression of the late 1920s. I marvel at the fact that people's track record is such that you can see every time they have destroyed the lives of workers, then they say, put us back in charge. And in some places, we do that because we get confused about what's going on and who's doing what to who. Those who have destroyed our economy, destroyed our jobs, destroyed our hopes, our dreams, and our aspirations are entitled to nothing but an ass-kicking from us. This is the same crowd who fought against Social Security. Now they want to privatize it. Let them put their own money on Wall Street and see how they make out with that. This is the same enemy who fought against unemployment compensation, the same crowd who fought against the 8-hour day, the same crowd who fought against the minimum wage, the same crowd who every single day walks the halls of Congress and fight against the minimum wage. How can you make a reasonable argument that anybody can live off $7.25 an hour? That's insane. And we need to tell them that. It's the same enemy who fought against 14B of the National Labor Relations Act, the foundation for how they're undermining the Labor Relations Act and Board this day. This is the historical struggle between the needy and the greedy. It's the same struggle, it's the same enemy. And we must never forget, nor must we ever allow ourselves to be misled. As we continue to confront this ongoing problem of the rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer, and those of us lucky enough to have a job are still paying the bill for both groups. They consistently resort to their lies, their alibis, deceit, deception, division, and divisiveness. It is they, not us, it is they who divides us. North against south, east against west, young against old, male against female, black against white, white against black, everybody against brown. It is they who do this because it's in their interest to keep us divided and at each other's throat. They assume as we move towards November that we have forgotten. And sometimes they hope we never knew. We never knew that their greed had destroyed just millions and millions of lives on both sides of the border. They hope we never remember how rich they are and how poor an overwhelming majority of workers are becoming. They became rich off of trickle-down economics, and they're going to fight to preserve it no matter what happens. Well, it is our job to change it. It's our job to change it. In 2006, we saw the results of this failed economic policy and concept. We almost saw a global collapse of the economy. Bankruptcies and foreclosures at record rates, outsourcing of jobs and downsizing of jobs, losses at the rate of 750,000 jobs per month, long-term unemployment still plaguing us to this day. And the hopes and dreams and aspirations of generations that passed threatens the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of generations to come. Brothers and sisters, they think we have forgotten. They don't think enough of us remember. They hope they just convince us not to care. Well, let me serve notice on them. We remember. We remember. We have not forgotten, and we do care. We know we didn't lose our electronics industry, our rubber industry, our leather industry, textile, auto, or steel. We didn't lose them because my uncle decided he wanted to be my aunt. No, it wasn't that. We didn't lose 11 million jobs because we don't have prayer in school. You and I both know, as long as they teach algebra and geometry and trigonometry, you're going to have prayer in school. No, so we lost those jobs and we lost those industries because of the decisions of the rich and wealthy to protect their riches and wealth at the expense of the American worker. The worker and our unions know that Samuel Gomper's definition of what labor wants is as relevant today as it was years ago. And the irony is that it's labor's role, it's our role and our responsibility to continue this struggle. Labor must be the core of a broad new social movement fighting for a way of life rather than a station in life. And let me make that point again. We ought to be fighting for a way of life rather than a station in life. Because if you accept the conditions that are set down for us, then we accommodate to them, and then we will never fight back. The IUPAT, its leadership, its membership is the greatest example of this determination. Brothers and sisters, I got a phone call ring. I apologize to y'all. Excuse me, just look, I'm giving a speech, and I'd appreciate it if you get off the phone. The IUPAT, its leadership and membership is one of the greatest examples of our determination to fight back. Brothers and sisters, the fate of our communities are tied to labor. And whether you believe it or not, the fate of labor is tied to our communities. So I welcome the CORE program and the commitment to go out and organize and let us help you organize and build a strong IUPAT and build a strong rest of the labor movement also. We cannot survive without your strength and your commitment and your dedication. And you cannot survive without our commitment to making sure that organized labor moves back toward the power and strength that it once had. Thank you so much.
People.